Okay. And our main proof of principle for this idea that I'm telling you is what we call sensory substitution. And the idea with sensory substitution is you can actually feed information into an unusual sensory channel. You can mix this stuff up and feed information to the brain via an unusual sensory channel, and the brain will figure it out. And this is how we know, this is what supports my assertion about the Mr. Potato Head model, is that the brain doesn't care how the information gets there as long as it gets there. Now you may think, okay, well, I've never heard of sensory substitution. Is this some new speculative idea? Turns out this has been around since 1969. So the first paper on sensory substitution was published in the journal Nature by a guy named Paul Bocchi-Rita. And here's what he did. He set up a dental chair so that there was a camera whose video feed fed into the back of the dental chair in the form of little solenoids that poked you in the back. So if you put a circle in front of the camera, then you feel a circle pressed into your back. And if you put a triangle in front of the camera, then you feel a triangle pressed into your back. So he could put shapes, he could put people's faces, he could put all kinds of things, and you feel it in your back. And what he showed is that blind people could come to see through their back. They could come to be very good about identifying what was going on through the video feed just by feeling it through their skin. Now here's the thing. This has been through many incarnations since 1969. Here's an example of something called sonic glasses. So there's a video camera right here on your forehead, and the video feed gets turned into audio signals in your ears. So as the video feed changes, you hear it. So it goes. And what happens is when you put these things on, let's say you're blind, you put these on, it just sounds like a cacophony at first. You don't understand what the relationship is between the sounds you're hearing and what the camera is seeing. It's hard to understand what that relationship is. So at first you're walking around, you're bumping into things, you're hitting your shin. After a while you figure out how to do this cognitive translation. You figure out, okay, when I'm getting close to something, it goes, it gets louder. When I get farther away, it gets softer. Frequencies mean something, and so on. You figure out a cognitive translation. But here's the important part, is after several weeks of wearing this, you have vision. You're seeing, right? And it sounds completely bizarre. How could you possibly see through your ears, through these weird sounds in your ears? But as I mentioned before, it's equally as bizarre as the peripheral devices you have currently. There's nothing really special about these. Your eyes don't see. All they're doing is converting photons to electrical signals that follow along a particular data cable that we call the optic nerve into the brain. But it's just electrical signals going into the brain that are correlated with what's going on out here, and that's what happens with these sonic glasses. Turns out there are lots of incarnations of this, so you don't have to convert a video feed to auditory. This is an example of a Japanese group that turns it into a little electrode grid of little tiny shocks on your forehead. So when you see something in front of you, and when the camera sees it, that gets turned into these little feelings on your forehead, and you can come to see that way. The most recent incarnation is what's called the brain port, where the video feed gets turned into a little electrode grid that's placed on your tongue. So it's a series of little electrical shocks on your tongue. Why the tongue? It's because it's got a really conducive electrical environment in there. Your tongue's very sensitive. And so you can have a pretty high-resolution electrode grid there that's telling you what's in front of the camera. And people do extraordinary things with this. Maybe some of you may have seen videos of this blind mountain climber who scales cliff faces wearing the brain port. He feels on his tongue where he's supposed to reach, and so on. People can do things like, blind people can put this on their tongue, and after enough practice with it, they can take a ball and throw it into a basket, things like that. It's really extraordinary. They're coming to see. And what all this does is it proves the principle of the Mr. Potato Head model, which is that the brain doesn't care how it gets the information as long as the information gets there somehow.